Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about, we're going to move on from adding and subtracting rational numbers and integers into multiplying and dividing them. So if you're following along online, make sure you're putting these into teams, or if you're in class, make sure you're following along so you can glue these into your notes. So today we have multiplying and dividing rational numbers or integers, and we're going to start with just integers. And this set of notes has quite a bit of review on it as far as adding and subtracting goes. Today we're only going to focus on the multiplying and dividing. So the good news is multiplying and dividing integers is more straightforward than adding and subtracting them. So what you're going to do is you're going to multiply or divide like normal, like you normally would. However, you're going to pay attention to the signs of the number. So you're going to say, do both of the signs match? Here's what I mean by that. If both signs match, meaning you're multiplying a positive times a positive, your answer is going to be positive, obviously. But also, if they match and you're multiplying a negative times a negative, your answer will be positive. So if both signs match, the answer will be positive. And that's with them matching. If they don't match, if they are a mismatch, we might say, then the answer will be negative. And so what I mean by that when I say they don't match is you have one negative and one positive. This works for dividing too, but I usually like to start with multiplying. So for example, a negative times a positive is a negative, and a positive times a negative is a negative. So let's look into our examples a little bit. We've got -4 divided by 2. So those signs, we have a negative and a positive. They don't match. It's a mismatch. So our answer is going to be negative. We also have -5 times -8. Those signs do match, so our answer will be positive. And then you multiply or divide like normal. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 5 times 8 is 40. A couple more examples over here. We've got -24 divided by -3. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. Those signs match, so our answer will be positive. And 24 divided by 3 is 8. Example 4 says 15 times -3. That's positive times a negative. Those mismatch, those don't match. So that is going to be a negative answer. And 15 times 3 is 45. Okay, like I said, we're going to skip the adding and subtracting examples, mostly because you've done that recently, so you should be okay on those, and we'll come back to them for review if we need to. But let's look at these more elaborate problems, these kind of lengthy examples. So first off, I'm going to come down here because I don't have enough room. You can use another sheet of paper or another page in your journal. But I'm going to write down -4, and then we see these parentheses. The parentheses just mean multiply. So we know when they're right next to each other, that means multiply. So I'm multiplying 4 different numbers together here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. -4 times 5. Negative times a positive don't match. So it's a negative answer. 4 times 5 is 20. Okay? And now I'm going to bring down the rest. So we've got negative times a negative times a negative, those match, that's a positive. 20 times 1 is 20. And one last number, 20 times 3, those are both positive, and those match, so our answer will be positive, obviously. And 20 times 3 is 60. Okay, so we're going to record that in our notes. Make sure you have the work done somewhere else. And we might see this dot. We know that means multiply. The parentheses don't really hurt anything, though. Sorry, for some reason my pen wasn't working. Okay. And again, you can use that dot or the parentheses. So 4 times negative 2, that's positive times a negative, that's a negative answer. Those don't match, so 4 times 2 is 8. And we're going to bring down the rest, only doing one number at a time or 2 numbers at a time so that we're not losing our footing there. And then we have negative 8 times negative 3. Negative times a negative is a positive. Those match, so it's a positive answer. And 8 times 3 is 24. I don't need to put the plus sign there, but if you are just getting started with multiplying and dividing, it may be a good idea to go ahead and write down the sign so you know what your answer will be, and then do the multiplication or division part so that you don't forget to put the appropriate sign on. Okay, now looking at this number, I know that I can, or this problem, I know I can go ahead and multiply 24 times 5. However, I also know that 5 times 2 is 10, which means I can come up with a power of 10, and that would be easier to work with. So I'm going to do that. Negative 5 times 2, negative times a positive is a negative. So, and 5 times 2 is 10. So we should get a negative 10 there. And basically all we have left is 24 times 10. And we know that multiplying any number by 10 is the same as moving that decimal one place to the right. So our answer should be 240. Again, look, this is an example of maybe forgetting what the sign would be once you get done with all that multiplication. We have a positive times a negative. Those don't match, so our answer should be negative. All right, and I'm going to record those. Now, I want to talk to you real quick before we go about what happens if you've got a bunch of numbers like this. There is a little bit of a shortcut. If we have a bunch of numbers or multiplying 3 or more integers, and we have an even number of negatives, so we have an even number of negatives in our problem. I'll show you what that looks like. Our answer is going to be positive. But if we have an odd number of integers, our answer will be negative. So we have a couple examples. Let's look at them. We can count up how many negative numbers we have, and that'll tell us if we're if it's all multiplication and division. It has to be all multiplication and division. If it's all multiplication and division, and we have an even number of negative numbers, we should have a positive answer. So that looks like this over here. We have negative 4, positive 5, and negative 1 and positive 3. So we have 2 negative numbers. So our answer down here should be positive because we have an even number of negatives. And conversely, if we have an odd number of negatives, so for example, we have the negative 2, the negative 3, and the negative 5. We have 3 negative numbers, then our answer ends up being negative. Okay, like I said, we're not going to worry about the addition and subtraction for today. That is all. Make sure you go and practice